Humiliation, degradation, and unbridled cringe. Let's talk about the trainers who dressed Ash up like a clown and paddled him back to Pallet Town. Hey Charles, it's everyone. How are you today? We all take an L from time to time, some of us more often than others, and Ash Ketchum is no different. And having had hundreds of battles over the course of the anime, it is only to be expected that he has occasionally encountered opponents who made a monkey out of him. So the plan today is to chat about 7 special trainers who have embarrassed Ash in battles so badly that it left viewers themselves drenched in the cold sweat of shame. I hope you enjoy the humiliation, the cringe, and as always it's going to be a good time, so kindly subscribe to join the family, and let's jump right in. B is sweet whenever she has a mouth full of sweets, but a cold-blooded killer whenever she hits the pitch. Running hot in the World Coronation series at the time, Ash first battled B thinking he had the match in the bag, but ended up with a foot in his mouth. After Halucha folds Farfetch'd up like a lawn chair, Graplocked proceeds to beat down the Journey's golden boy Riolu, proceeding to painfully choke it out in a game-ending submission hold, and when Ash refuses to surrender, B has Graplocked humiliate Riolu and Ash even further with a point-blank liquidation to the face. The disgraced Alolan champion thereafter spirals into a depressing losing streak that only the Go-Bro is able to snap him out of by one-upping him and then dropping a big pep talk on him a few episodes later. It was pretty tough to watch. While Ash got cocky only to get clowned on by tons of trainers throughout the Indigo League era, AJ stands out to me as Ash's first truly big blowout after boast embarrassment. When Ash arrives at AJ's makeshift gym, he huffs and he puffs and he brags about his 2 badges, and he belittles AJ for not having a single badge to his name in spite of racking up 98 victories in a row, even after AJ explains that he had decided not to challenge any gym leaders until hitting 100 consecutive wins. Ash responds by throwing down the gauntlet, Butterfree squares off against AJ's Sanchu, and as you'd expect, AJ's Sanchu effortlessly puts Team Ketchum down for the count. Ash is such an insecure loser at this point in his life that he even has the audacity to accuse AJ of cheating. It was embarrassing, it was cringy, and unlike most other trainers on this list, Ash never did get another crack at AJ despite their promise that they would battle again one day. Sawyer is the little green-haired kid who could, and although he got cut down by Ash in the Kalos League semi-finals, he had quite the impressive run back in the XY anime. As a mentor of sorts to Sawyer, Ash inspired the new trainer from Hoenn to get on the grind as a Pokemon trainer, giving him 2 sound beatings that pushed him to get better and to get better quickly. And in no time at all, Sawyer shocked everyone by turning the tables on Ash to defeat him in a 3v3 battle at a time when our boy was riding high. Sawyer was never mean-spirited about overtaking his vastly more experienced mentor, and Ash himself did his best to take the loss in stride. But the feeling of getting good at something after years and years of practice, only for a newcomer to easily surpass you in a fraction of the time, must come bundled with a special brew of humiliation and frustration. And certainly, failing to control the Ash Greninja transformation and losing to Sawyer was a confidence-shaking slap to Ash's ego that made a lasting impact, as Ash would immediately go on to suck down another fat L from gym leader Wulfric, run off to mope about by himself in the forest, and then hurt a supportive precious friend's feelings by freaking out at her like a temperamental child. Trip is often looked at as little more than a milquetoast follow-up to Paul, but somehow he still proved too hot for Ash to handle throughout Pottercheek's Unova adventures. And perhaps no embarrassing loss in Ash Ketchum's embarrassing loss history is more often quoted than his loss to Trip at the beginning of the Black and White series. The gamers out there screeched about how nonsensical it was that Ash's level 100 Pikachu was losing to a level 5 Snivy, unaware that the idea of levels in the anime was more or less abandoned years ago, and longtime anime fans saw it for what it was. A cheap way to give powerful Diamond and Pearl Ash a soft reset and set up a new rivalry that would be believable to new fans. But if we look past that inconvenient truth to take on an in-universe perspective on the loss, then the Sawsbuck stops with Ash. It is true that Pikachu was unable to use electric-type attacks on account of its earlier run-in with Zekrom, a detail that is often overlooked by the Ketchum haters out there. Regardless, Lily of the Valley semi-finalist Ash and his Pikachu, who had just taken Latios to a draw, surely could have combined their limited moveset with some kind of out-of-the-box thinking to emerge victorious over a trainer still green behind the ears. Instead, Pikachu gets KO'd faster than you can say pathetic, and Trip slaps salt to the stitches by recommending that Ash review the basics of Pokemon training. Ash's loss to Sawyer was reasonable since Sawyer had already put in the legwork, but the loss to Trip was nothing but disgraceful. Paul is a bad, bad man, and we love him for it. Not just because he set up the best rivalry and revenge arc in the history of the anime, or because he came back years later to give Ash invaluable anti-ace training in advance of the Masters 8 tournament, but also because, quite simply, he is savage. And what Paul did to Ash at Lake Acuity was essentially the Community Soccer League 13-0 blowout of the Pokemon anime. As not only did Paul's team slap Ash's team right out of the water and right back into it, but they just made Team Ketchum look so ineffectual, so weak, and so silly while they were at it. Ursaring's easy-peasy hammer arm knockouts on Staraptor and Pikachu rank among the battle's most devastating moments, but nothing stands out in my mind quite like Electabuzz ending the battle with a cruncher of a Thunder Punch to Monferno's face, leaving Ash clutching his broken Pokemon in despair as Paul smugly walked off into the sunset. Ash came into the match eager to prove the merits of his training methodologies against those of Paul, but the only thing he ended up proving was Paul's untouchable superiority. It was an embarrassment of the most emotionally raw variety, but it does have an upshot, as this devastating loss lit a fire in Ash's heart that would help his team burn brighter than ever before when he and Paul clashed again. Watching Sabrina dismantle Ash's Pokemon both mentally and physically is as disturbing of a watch today as it was back in the 90s. In their first battle, Abra evolves into Kadabra mid-battle and proceeds to destroy Pikachu, making him dance and smacking Yellow Mickey up and down like a Gandalf in a tower. As if this blowout of a battle was not emasculating enough, as a result of Ash's loss, the group are warped into a dollhouse to become Sabrina's playthings, and are only able to mistake because a mysterious man rescues them. The mysterious man turns out to be Sabrina's dad, who chastises Ash for declaring that he would pursue a rematch against Sabrina, then drops his pants and makes him dance around like an idiot in his underwear, and busts him up for all to cringe at before pushing him off to Lavender Town to capture a ghost Pokemon. But when Ash does come back with a ghost Pokemon 2 episodes later, he does not fare much better, as Haunter disappears before the battle begins, making Ash look like a dummy all over again. And then he makes matters worse by trying to run away, which results in Misty and Brock being turned into dolls, and is himself only able to escape with the help of Sabrina's dad yet again. Once he finally tracks down Haunter, he returns to the gym, but Haunter disappears again. As a result, Pikachu gets slapped around, and in the end, Ash is completely helpless, and it's only because Haunter makes Sabrina laugh uncontrollably from the sidelines that Ash gets out of the place in one piece with his friends, a marsh badge, and a shred of dignity. This was a classic example of Ash failing to earn the respect of Pokemon he would be taking into Indigo League battles, instead leaving his career prospects in the hands of jokers, bullies, and at the whims of fortune. And boy oh boy would that ever come back to bite him. Ash Ketchum, you madman. When it comes to trainers who have humiliated Ash Ketchum, there is no trainer who has humiliated him more than he has humiliated himself. Whether it be sealing his fate at the Indigo League by bringing in a disobedient Charizard when he had ample time to get it under control or explore alternatives, walking into battle as cocky as the King of Spades only to make a fool of himself, or his generation's running laziness with regard to understanding type effectiveness that reared his ugly head as recently as in his battle against Kalos Elite 4-member Drasna near the supposed peak of competitive play. Indeed, nobody makes Ash Ketchum look like a goon, quite like Ash Ketchum. Compared to the early days, Ash Ketchum has matured and gotten a much better handle on the knowledge and tactics necessary to succeed in the competitive Pokemon world, despite occasionally still making the odd slip up. But just as we will never forget when big name banker Benny Bumblebottom used to shart himself in 4th grade math class, we will never forget the days when Alola champion and Masters 8 competitor Ash Ketchum was humiliated by other trainers and humiliated by himself time and time again. And it just gives me the shivers. But how about you? Which of these 6 trainers humiliated Ash the most? And what other humiliating Ash Ketchum moments come to your mind? By the way, here I am at an onsen in the inland sea of Japan, soothing the body in an open-air hot spring while taking in the fresh mountain air and the sights of the countryside is one of my favorite ways to let off a little steam at the end of a tough week. Just get naked, get in, and get relaxed. So when you make it over to Japan, be sure to mosey on over to an onsen to wash away your troubles and put some spring back in your step. Well, till next time, have a good one.